Welcome to The Little Things You Hear Together, the podcast that dives deep into Broadway cast albums to figure out how they work, what they reveal, and why some of them claim a bigger piece of our collective brains than others. My name is Alex Asp, and my very special guest today is Bombay Dreams' original Broadway cast member, Tiffany Cooper. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for coming here to share all of your insider knowledge.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having me. I'm honored. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about and how we're going to break everything down.
Yeah, so I have spoiled it a bit that we're talking about Bombay Dreams, but the twist for this episode is that this is the first time for the podcast that we're talking about a cast album that's not actually from the Broadway production.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who's not aware, it is very common for shows that come from London or off Broadway or even sometimes a regional production, and they will do a recording of that, and it's a similar enough show that they will decline the extra cost of re-recording it. So it's kind of ironic that I have the wonderful pleasure of having a Broadway cast member, and then you're not on this album.
I know, it was so interesting. I think if the show had continued on, they would have found it valuable to record a Broadway cast. So I think it would have been I think we should have recorded one, even though the show didn't last forever because the voices were very different. You know, at that time when we did the show, story had been settled, right? They had already done it in London. And by the time we were doing it on Broadway, they'd already settled in like what they wanted the sound to be like, right?
Yeah.
How they wanted the leads to sound. They had already gone through that. And to be honest with you, I think some of the voices from the Broadway cast, this is just my personal opinion, better. Well, I just thought they fit more of the character.
Yeah.
You know,
and there were some
better
song
and
changes.
Stronger singers. I should say that. Stronger singers, because that was what people commented on. Like, hey, I saw the Broadway production, but your voice was very different from the album because it wasn't us on the album.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure people really made that connection until they bought the album and they got, oh, you're not on the album?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the London cast. Oh.
It's weird when they choose to make a separate recording when they don't. I'm sure there's a whole lot that goes into it that we never hear about, but it is disappointing not to have your performances available to us now in the future.
I know. That's, you can say like, I did national tour of Guys and Dolls, and we recorded, and that's a tour, and we recorded an album, and that album was nominated for a Grammy. So it's really interesting to not go to Broadway and do a tour and then have an album from that tour and then get praise from it. It's just really interesting how albums, are made and the importance of them.
Yeah, and I do have to say, listening to that Guys and Dolls cast album, several of the songs, it's the best version of the songs that I've heard out of any of the many Guys and Dolls albums out there. Like Marry the Man Today was, I've never liked that song until listening to this album. And the voices, the tempo, the choices, it was so great.
It's one of my favorite too. I listen to a lot of Guys and Dolls albums, and I love all guys. I'm so proud of that album.
Yeah.
So proud of that album.
It's amazing.
And you're right. It was so different. The arrangements were just slightly different. And obviously it did well because it was nominated for a Grammy. We didn't win, but still, that's a big honor and privilege to be considered. Considering there are many albums singing the same songs.
Yeah. So even though we don't have a recording of you in Bombay Dreams, you have experience that you can share with all of us about how it goes, the whole process of making an album. And, I'm sure things have changed over the years with how they approach. I know now it's a lot of people in booths by themselves with pre-recorded instrumentation and stuff. But I love, we get that company documentary about the making of the cast album. And I would love more stuff like that to actually see what it's like.
Yeah, pull back the curtains,
Yeah.
When I actually did, when I was doing international tour of Greece Das Musical. It was an interesting show because we did it in Germany and Switzerland, but we spoke in German and we sung in English.
Yeah.
So you kind of felt like we recorded that album, a Greece album, international album, in the mountains in Switzerland on top of the Alps. And crazy. There was a recording studio on a top of a mountain in Switzerland, and we recorded it. Crazy.
Yeah.
And that's an international. And so it really begs to me, how do they decide what shows are deserving of an album, right? Because the business of album making is very expensive. And, do you need a semi-hit show for an album to emerge? Or are they hoping that the album spearheads the show? If it's like a new show, like say Hamilton, for example, or, it's just very fascinating to me, decision-making of going, having to decide, hey, we're going to make an album or not make an album in our case.
Yeah.
Why not the Broadway album? Why just only the British?
Yeah.
Because it's very different.
Yeah, I think a lot of it probably ends up coming down to personalities and what specific people feel is important. And some people
Mhm.
are just wrong and think that a cast album is not a valuable thing. But especially for the
Mm.
longevity of your show as a, not just a production, but the show as a living concept that can be redone in the future.
Mm.
Like, why would you not want to have that available for people to fall in love with the show years after it's closed and realize what was so great about this production and this cast and value all the things that went into it that don't have to go away after the production closes but can live on? I don't understand why
Yeah,
some people don't find that valuable.
I know, and the next generation being able to listen to that,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, we all have those cast albums of shows from before we were born, and we still know them because the albums are a part of our lives, and it's a great way to stay connected with all of musical theater history.
And I just love the fact that I guess certain stories I think of like Most Happy Fellow, there's like so many albums of that musical.
And it's
You're
such a
like,
long
which
show.
which album do you decide to make your own? Which album that you decide to buy, right? There's so many of them.
And then it's also, if you're doing a revival or a studio recording of an already recorded show, what is it about your recording that's going to be different, that's going to make it stand out? Is that including a little bit more of the dialogue and the book scenes? Is it just
Mm-hmm.
a different take on the performances? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other conversation of choosing not just to do an album, but then if you do and it's already been done before, how are you going to
Mm-hmm.
approach it to make it your own?
And that's, the conductor and the band and producers. And when you think about albums like it's already been done and you're doing like a revival, who gets to say, yes, I like that? Is it the money folk? Is it the investors and the producers say, hey, musical director, I don't like that version of that particular song? Who gets to, in the end of the day, is it truly collaborative at the very top in terms of decision making, or is it the musician and, the musical director and the conductor thinking, hey, this is what I want, along with the
Yeah.
director? Or is it more of the investor producer says, hey, I'm putting money behind this. I need it to sound a certain way. It's just interesting. I love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations
Oh,
because
yeah.
I know there's got to be a struggle.
Yeah. And I'm sure it varies widely based on, again, personalities and how well the director, producer, musical director, how well they get along. And it may be completely collaborative or it may be butting heads and fighting and somebody ends up winning and somebody loses. So I'm sure there's no standard for how that conversation goes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because
I'd love to see
everybody wants
each
to
one
put
of
their
those.
stamp on it.
Yeah. But then people have different priorities because the producers care more about the money of it and they
Mm-hmm.
want to make this successful financially. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, different priorities will sometimes cause conflict. And obviously I'm biased that I think cast albums are fantastic. Because I started this podcast, I am admittedly quite a big fan. So there are many reasons why they're valuable and important. And I'm glad that so many people that I've talked to seem so happy to come on the podcast because they have the exact same feeling that this is important and it is integral to the future of the art form as a whole, I think.
Do you think that cast albums will be here forever, or do you think they're becoming less and less known? I mean, because you mentioned the importance. I agree, it's very important for our industry. But do you think that because we have art funding drying up and people want to spend their money in dollars different ways, do you think that I believe there's value in getting in a cast album?
Yeah.
Whether a show does really well or not. But do you think that cast albums becoming less and less?
I don't think that trend has started yet. So far, I think the theater community has pushed back against that kind of thinking, and it is still valued within the theater community, as far as I can tell. Not that I'm terribly connected with it, but I think it's definitely something that's going to be a trend that will start to try to creep in. And it'll depend on how long people are willing to push back and say, no, we're not going to go that way that a lot of other industries have. We still think this is a very valuable thing to do, both financially for getting the show out there. Because especially if you're a producer, if you're a smart producer, you're not just thinking about this production. You're thinking of you want to be done regionally and in high schools and all over because then you'll get royalties in perpetuity because people are doing your show because they know it because of the cast album. So it's not, you have to think about the long game as well. And I think that has been enough to keep some people from pushing harder to get rid of cast albums because they recognize that there is a financial benefit in the long term, at least.
I agree. It's so important. And it's an honor and privilege. I mean, I think about like Miss Saigon and Leia Salonga. She's a grown woman now, right? Has her own child, and she can tell her son, "Hey, you want to hear mommy sing?" Or young children, from school or theater camp. It's like, "Hey, I listened to your album when you were, 22." It's got to feel great,
I love those
right?
stories. They're always so fun to.
But it would have been great to do Bombay Dreams album. Yeah, there were moments in there where I thought, oh God, that would have been great. We would have done it a little differently. We would have punched it a little differently. we would have added a little more accents here, listening to it. It's like, oh, that could have been, this song could have touched a little bit more. This song, oh, was right on point, right? You go
Yeah.
through and you critique, especially if you're in it hoping that, and then you realize you're not going to do an album. You look at it differently. You
Yeah.
go through each song and you critique, and you go, God, we don't even do that anymore. That's out. How many times you listen to a cast album and they've taken out certain parts, right?
Yeah.
They do a tour, and then it goes to Broadway, and they say, we're going to take out that song is not really working. Apparently there were, I think, 1 or 2 songs that they wanted to add into the original cast album that they didn't, right? So which songs get in? Which songs don't really get into are taken out of the actual show, but are still in the album?
Yeah.
Right? You got version 1, version 2.
And
so I find that very fascinating to me.
Yeah, especially, I mean, sometimes you're dealing with a time constraint on the album of, especially when CDs were the major force for people listening to music, they can only hold so many minutes of music. And so I know that factored in.
We never talk about, when we're building a cast album, we never talk about how an artist has to prepare themselves, like the voice and all of that, because you might be really great live, right? I'm great on stage. I can sing and I know it. And then you get in a studio. If you're not used to studio singing, that's another skill set, right? They teach you that once you're in the studio. But if you're not used to the studio, you don't, how you project and pull back, and hey, you're a little off. When you perform it live, you're not. But when you're in the studio, you're sounding a little different, So
yeah, and
all that
balance,
goes
all of that.
into having to do that.
Yeah, it's weird because if you don't think about it too hard, it seems like, oh, you just do the exact same thing you do on stage, it'll be fine. And it's so not that, just because the situation is different. You're not doing all the acting around it. You're not in the same physical configuration as you are with other people on stage in the studio. And certain things you do have to maybe be more clear in the enunciation of a certain part because you don't have the visual to go along with it. And so on the stage show, you can lean more into the emotion because the clarity of the word is not as important because it's obvious in the context. But if all you have is the album, you need to make sure that people can understand that word.
And the pressure for the artist, the singer, because, you may be performing it on stage and you're not enunciating well because you can get away with that, right? But in the studio, you have a music director who has never hounded you over your lyrics before, all of a sudden is getting pickier and pickier and driving you nuts and maybe making you mess up more, right? That's why I think that even if you know the lyrics, always have the lyrics in front of you, right? Just because you under a different type of pressure and, and time constraint, there are other factors in there. That's why studio singing is a very different. How do you bring that same level of performance on stage into your singing so they feel like they're in the room with you, right?
Yeah.
Or the listener feels like they're coming along that journey, because you have to essentially tell the story with your voice.
Yeah.
Right. Than just your movement. So that's a completely different thing. And I've seen music directors get really mad at artists. Hey, you're not singing it. Just do it again. Time is money. The band is playing it right and you're messing up. Right. But you've never messed up before.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're messing up.
You're having to figure out how to troubleshoot for the first time.
You're not used to that kind of pressure, or you, lackadaisical, you're so used to like, hey, I'll just rely on my memory. I've always done this on stage. And all of a sudden we're doing it, and they're like more pickier than they've ever been.
Yeah.
More than in your first rehearsal, because you got a band that you got to think about, and they got to listen to you, and you better hit that note and it sounds off. And I got to listen to the guy, playing the trombone, and I got to correct, right? So the pressure cooker's there. And so sometimes I find that because I've done this twice, 3 times, when you're in a studio with a cast album, it's all fun and games, but it's work and the pressure is there. And sometimes the creative team is not as kind as they want to be because they can't.
Yeah.
It's business. Money is time, and your feelings are secondary. You're messing up, and I need you to get it right. Why are you messing up? And then you're all freaked out, and you get pushed back. You're not giving me what I want. I need you. We're doing the same song 15 times. You need to hit it because we need to move on to the next song. That's the reality. We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
It's not all fun and games and huggy tuggy. Yeah, we get in the studio and hey, we're all happy. Your voice will be warmed up, but you've got to do the work, and the pressure's on. And then after you record, that's when you can go, oh, right.
Take a big breath.
You don't know how many takes you're going to have to do.
Yeah. Or how many takes
and how long they had that studio. The reality is they don't have the studio time for that long. They blocked out this amount of time, and then you got a show that night. So there's no time to be like, oh, do it. Let's do it for an 8th time. No, we're going to do it 3 times. And those 3 times, you better get it.
Yeah.
Or else.
Absolutely. So we've kind of talked about cast albums specifically, which I love because that's the whole point of the podcast. What has been your journey with musical theater in general? Like, how did you kind of get started in things, and how has your relationship with theater progressed over your career?
Well, my very first professional theater was Galveston and Outdoor Musicals, and that was in the 80s. And that's when you would rehearse a show. You would do a show at night, and then at 11 p.m. you would come down and then rehearse for the next show from 11 to 2 a.m.
Oh boy.
That's crazy. That's back in the day. They don't abuse you like that anymore.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's what you would do. You get off the show and okay, get out of costume. We're going to rehearse for the next show in the round. And that was outdoor theater. But I moved to New York City right after college in 92, and I never looked back. I was really blessed. I was able to stay in New York, support myself. I did, multiple different types of jobs. I was like a personal trainer for a while. I did perfume modeling as a side gig, but I got the backstage every Wednesday night, early Thursday, and then I would go through that. Eventually I got an agent, but I got my first off Broadway 2 weeks when I moved there. So I was hustling. I had a hustle mentality.
Yeah.
So I moved there in 92. I had 2 roommates. I worked there. But let me tell you, I was very strategic. When I was in college and before I moved to New York City, I knew that I didn't have a lot of friends that lived in New York, and I knew I needed connections because I knew this business was all about relationships too. So I took a job in the summer before I moved to New York, to Hershey Park, because I knew that I would meet actors, singers, and dancers that probably lived in New York City, but just working in the summer at Hershey Park.
Yeah, that's smart.
Sure enough, I met friends. I met my roommates, moved to New York. I got an apartment because I subletted the choreographer's apartment that he was going on tour. So I got an apartment. I got roommates from working at Hershey Park, and it gave me lifelong friends that I still have today. And so that was strategic. I was very strategic. I also, when I graduated from college, my mom and my dad asked me, what do you want for your graduation present? Instead of like a car or whatever, I asked, can you pay for all of my bills for 1 year in New York City to help me out so I can audition? And that's what they gave me. So I didn't have to worry about, oh my God, can I pay my rent? Or what? They helped me out for 1 year. Of course, after that, I had to be on my own. That freed me up to audition for everything.
Yeah.
That worrying about, can I pay my bills?
Yeah.
And so that was a great gift. And then I started doing off-Broadway. Eventually I did Broadway. I did some film, TV. I started doing background singing for artists at Town Hall for women. Then I started doing industrials and then voiceovers. And then I did a cruise ship. So I did that. So I was in New York for a long, long time. And then I got a job to do an opera in Bregenz, Austria, where I met my husband. And I did that. It was an incredible contract. Let me just tell you this, because it was the same show, Porgy and Bess, for 2 years, 2 months. So I would do the show and then go back to America. And then the next year, for 2 months, do the same show and then come back to America, which they don't have contracts like that.
Yeah.
So I was in New York for a long time. I say from 92 to 2011. Then I moved to Alaska. My husband at the time was my boyfriend. He ran an opera company. So we eventually got married, and I moved from New York City from 92 to 2011, moved to Anchorage, Alaska. Oh my God. Had to change my whole life.
Yeah.
And I started working there during film. It's funny. So I always sang, dance, and act. That's what I do. I was a singer, dancer, actor. But when I moved to Alaska, I was only acting. Only doing film and doing plays. I did no musicals. I was craving doing a musical, and I lived there for about 9 years, left there, and then our careers took us to Ashland, Oregon, where I did musical theater again. So it was really interesting. And that Alaska phase of my life only knew me, oh, you're only an actor. Oh, you really sing too? Oh, because that's all I did. And then when I got to Oregon, they're like, oh, you act and dance? Oh, I've only known you as a singer, because I had these pockets of working in Oregon.
Yeah.
And then
just
our
happens
careers
that way.
took us to Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is the Twin Cities. And I feel like I'm at home. To be honest with you, it's like being in New York City in a way, because it's big city amenities or small town feel. But the talent and the art, it's very high and it's very competitive.
Yeah.
So, as you know, Minneapolis has, second to New York is many theaters, right? As many theaters outside of New York. So I feel like I've got that New York edge, but the quality of life is better.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And I can always go back to New York and do things. And my career has gotten better. So it's in a way, I started off in New York. I had a full career doing off-Broadway, Broadway, film and TV. But then I thought that when I moved to Alaska, my life, my career was just going to tank. And in fact, it got better and I had more opportunity, which is why I tell people the city and the state will be there for life, but the opportunities are not going to always be there. So take it because you can always come back to New York if it doesn't work. You
Yep.
can always come back. Take that opportunity. And so my life and my career in musical theater really opened up. And then when I got to Alaska, it opened up, and then Oregon, it opened up. And now here's even opened up more. If you had told me maybe 15, 20 years ago, oh, your life and your career, your musical theater, doing theater, film, all of it is going to open up even more, I would have laughed at you. Oh, no. Because the truth was, Alex, I was a location snob. In my mind, for musical theater and theater, I only thought I need to be in New York City, Chicago, or LA. Those are the only places I'm going to entertain. And the truth is, my life was better once I expanded my world. Who's to say I would have done just as much or had as many opportunities if I stayed? Yeah, I might have done maybe another Broadway show, but I'm a whole person. My self-worth is not in just my career. I like to do other things too, have
Yeah.
other interests.
And that's a good reminder that you are more than your Broadway credits, and
exactly
being clear about what is the goal. It is to be happy and a good person and doing theater that I love. Am I really just doing it so I can say, oh, I'm in another Broadway show? Or are you doing it for yourself? And so that's a great lesson, I think, for all of us to
It's like
examine what actually matters.
Because I'm here to be a holistic person. It's like it's a holistic approach to the arts. I teach a master class in business of the performing arts because I think that's important because it is called show business, not show talent. And so learning part of that well-being piece and mental health is very important. If you don't have your mind right, then you can't succeed outside what you think, right?
Yeah.
I don't care how talented you are. If you don't think you're great, you're not going to achieve that. So, part of that is having a balanced life.
Absolutely. Well, so to back up a little bit now, how did Bombay Dreams specifically come into your life?
Well, it's so funny. I had already been auditioning for different stuff. And I always know that because I had been on an audition circuit that because I was a wild card. I always was told from casting directors there's a wild card. And that means you might not be the type we're quote unquote looking for, but audition anyway. You might be that one person that we're going to think differently and cast differently. So I auditioned for everything because I really wanted to get into this particular Tara Rubin's casting office. And I've always loved her and she was always kind. So I wanted to get in that office. So I said, I look like I'm Indian. I'm not Indian, but I can go in looking like I am a little bit, and I'm just going to go in and see what happens. I had listened to the album. It's funny. I had bought the album, the London album, and I kind of like, okay, let me get familiar with this. And I kind of immersed myself in Indian culture. And I thought, what the heck? What the heck? This is a brand new musical. They might not even know what they're looking for. That's one thing I thought was brand new. They don't really know what you're looking for. So I went in and Tara Rubin gave me a call back. And I was like, okay. And not thinking much of it. And then I got another call back. And then the third callback was they were flying in Anthony Van Lass, who was the choreographer. And then our director, Stephen Pimblett, God bless him, he passed away. He was there. And then the assistants. And then I believe, not in my audition, but I know that Andrew Weber came at one of those auditions.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I sang my butt off. I sang 2 songs. I sang like an art song because I wanted to know I could sing. So I sang it like an operatic art song. And then I sang like some jazzy song. And then they brought me back into dance and I nailed the dance. But what was interesting was they made another cut. And when I saw the cut, like the dance cut, the singing cut, there were a lot of Indian women that did not make the cut. And one of them were like, are you really Indian? People were starting to come up to me and go, are you Indian? Basically, they want to know, you shouldn't be in the show if you're not really Indian, right? And I think they were just kind of questioning because they were shocked. Like, I don't know why I didn't get called back. I can dance, I can sing, but they were looking for strong. The competition was stiff, basically. In England, it was real different. The competition was really stiff. And so they hired about maybe 5 that were not truly Indian, like had Indian roots for the show, wild card. So I remember that being a thing. And I remember some people being really upset about that when they found out, well, you're not really Indian. Why are you in the show? But, I didn't listen to that. I got it. And then I kind of knew when my friend was saying, I think you're going to get a call. I'm like, how do you know I'm going to get a call? we'll take a call. Oh, here's a funny story. So my sister, she used to be a performing artist, and she's not. We used to look really alike. We don't look alike now as much, but we did. And so the musical director of Bombay Dreams, they were doing like a promo to get more investors. And so they did this promo and they used some of the old cast. They flew some of the English cast over to do this promo to get more investors. My sister happened to be there in the audience for some reason. I wasn't. And the musical director sat right next to her and he spoke to her. He came up to me and said, "You're going to get a call real quick. You're going to get a call, so don't take any other job. You're going to get a call quick." And my sister was like, "What?" She didn't say anything, but she calls me. She's like, "Some guy said you're going to get a call." And I was like, "You think maybe I'm going to get?" And she goes, "Well, all he said was you're going to get a call, don't take another job." And that's when I wonder, am I going to get a... Anyway, that week I got the call and I was really excited.
And it's very exciting, yeah, to be part of a new show. Andrew Lloyd Webber associated because he was producing but not writing.
Yeah.
But, still a very big name to be involved with.
Yeah. And Ramon came to our rehearsals, and then Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber came. He came to our rehearsals and sat there. It was really interesting to sit there. We always got heads up, when the media was coming in our rehearsals. What makeup? Wearing the cute leotards, right?
That's smart. So, just for those who might not be aware, which is probably many, many people, what is generally Bombay Dreams about? What is your elevator pitch for what the show is?
Well, it's evolved over the years, I say. It's really about rag to riches, in a sense. He lives in the slums of Bombay, and he really wants to make it. And he just is a young guy, and he makes it, and he falls in love. That's the genesis of the story.
Yeah.
Slums of Bombay, and then the opportunity that you can make. It's almost like the American dream of India.
Right.
And that's very basic. And that's why I think they expected the show to really hit and do really well, because it's a basic story. It's nothing, there's no thriller. It's not really a complicated story, right?
Yeah.
In the slums of Bombay, and a person working really hard to achieve their dreams. And then he eventually does reach his dream of being a famous star and falls in love. And he goes on this journey. But I personally think that if, the show did really well in England because of the Indian heritage and colonialism.
Yeah.
We have a different, and the knowledge about Indian culture at that time in America just was not in every living room, right? I am convinced if Slumdog Millionaire, the movie, had come out before Bombay Dreams, we would have still been playing. But they would have been familiar
brought that
with.
attention, yeah.
Oh, because remember, it was up for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, India. Oh, they would have been more open. But it was still very foreign to some people. Bollywood culture is huge.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think because it was one of the first Indian musicals on Broadway, but they're trying to be all things to all people, right? Give you Bollywood, give you the story, give you the love. They're trying to do everything. And I don't know if it always landed, right?
Yeah.
You got to give a little razzle dazzle.
And Bollywood has lots of razzle dazzle.
But then some people just didn't understand. It was so far removed. I felt like if we had contextualized it was more education,
yeah,
it would have been different. And I think because it did well in England, they just assume it was going to do well here. But, it's the audiences are very different.
Oh,
right?
Yes. Very, very different.
Just because you do it in England really doesn't mean it's going to hit here. Our ties to Indian culture are different. I guess we had more. I think if Bombay Dreams came in maybe 2 or 3 years later, we should be playing.
Yeah.
That's just my... And also another thing, most Broadway shows do a trial out-of-town run, right? They do a little out-of-town run. And the reason that's so important, because you can work out the script, work out the book, work out the music. You can see what works, what doesn't work, what lands for the audience and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Before it gets to Broadway where there's money involved.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. We went straight to Broadway.
And you have such a short amount of time in previews.
We didn't do tour, and they're not going to Broadway.
Yeah.
No, we just we're not going to tour. We're just going to go to Broadway. And I think it would have been maybe. Some people think if we had toured, we'd never make it.
I guess, and
I don't know.
Those stories have happened as well, so who can say for sure? But, this is a very different kind of show. And like many shows that are pioneering in some way, I think they very rarely get the attention that they should, because people are so confused by what is this different thing. And then it's usually looked back on from the future as, oh, wow, they really did something different and we didn't appreciate it enough at the time. Because this music is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So just to kind of run through the credits, music by A.R. Rahman, who's written many, he's got awards up the wazoo for movies, for shows in India. He's done so many different things. Lyrics by Don Black, who is a frequent Andrew Lloyd Webber collaborator.
Yeah, A. Rahman is just really... Yeah, he's like the Beethoven of India in a sense.
Yeah, and he's
They
just
call him.
quite prolific in all that he has put out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the show is directed by Stephen Pimlott. Musical director
I
was
know.
Christopher Nightingale, and orchestrations by A. Rahman, Marius DeVries, and Chris Elliott. And
Mm-hmm.
it all comes together in this beautiful sound that is, it unfortunately to me comes across more as a soundtrack than a cast album because there's
Mm-hmm.
no dialogue whatsoever, and most of the songs aren't immediately obvious on first listen that they're tied to the story because you get,
Mm-hmm.
at least for me, I got so lost in the lush beautifulness of the sound that the lyrics
Oh.
were not the prominent thing that I was getting. And so I was just enjoying the vibe of the music. And it was only after I was kind of re-listening, I was like, oh yeah, these are lyrics that are relating to the show. But it's just, I was loving the orchestrations so much.
Oh, wow. Do you have a favorite song?
We'll get to this as we go through the tracks, I guess. But I think The Journey Home just
Mm-hmm.
has such a great feel to it. It pulls on the right heartstrings and is beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's only one song that I don't particularly love, and it was
Mm-hmm.
cut for Broadway, so we'll get to that. But it is one of the most bizarre situations I've had so far with this podcast, trying to find information about this show in general, either the West End production or the Broadway production. There's just not a lot out there. Like even trying to
Mm-hmm.
get, I could never get a fully detailed synopsis because, what's on Wikipedia is very brief and high level. And it's kind of crazy to me how little it's been documented online to have things for posterity.
I know it's crazy. We did the making of Bombay Dreams, and they combined a little of, I think, some of the British from the get go, and then they did some snippets from the Broadway for promotion
Yeah.
reasons. They did do that, and we had that. And then, but yeah, it's crazy. We have like our Bombay Dreams Facebook group that we all connect with, and people sometimes, like, even outside people will ask, "Where's the Broadway?" Because it is very different from the Broadway and
Yeah, the West End.
the London.
They
Yeah,
cut some songs, they added some new songs, reordered things a little bit. There's
yeah, I mean,
several
it's
changes.
just that, it is disappointing that we never got to have an album. It'd be different if
Yeah.
I felt like the music was the same, the voices were the same. The Broadway voices were top notch.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the London was not top notch either, but maybe I'm just a little biased because I
Yeah.
just think that the artistry is there a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to it, and it is beautiful. Some of the music, it's funny what songs really resonate with Bombay Dreams. People always think, oh, Shakalaka Baby, because that's a big production number. But Like an Eagle, let me see, one of my favorite, Closer Than the Ganesh, just instrumental. I love the Ganesh because that is like you're dancing, and it's just really, it's very authentic,
Yeah.
Journey Home and Wedding, Kobali. I love that.
Yeah.
And Bob Sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
I love, like you were saying, the orchestrations of that. Some of the stuff I love is the orchestrations of it. It's just really.
Yeah. And this is an 18-piece orchestra, but it sounds even way bigger because the orchestrations are so well done.
Yeah. Combining traditional Indian music with pop musical theater. It's not an easy task.
Not at all.
And I think they did a really good job in the orchestrations in that.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into the songs. So the album opens with Bombay Awakes, which is just an instrumental, kind of like an overture that the main melody that we get will return later in the show.
Yeah, but I love that.
It opens so quiet. Like for a show that you think of as the spectacle of it, it opens very softly and kind of opens up slowly before it springs wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
So one of my gripes with cast albums is when they do fade outs because you can't really do that on stage. I'm assuming that there was no kind of fade out on the stage. So
no.
So why would you do that? Just anyway.
I know. See, this is why I say, somebody had to fight for that or didn't.
Yeah.
And the the musical director or producer, who is it? The investor? I don't like that. Is it A.R. Rahman? Is it the director? Or is it, Angela Weber? It's like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Who gets to say?
Or just the audio engineer thought it would be a good idea and nobody said anything about it. Who knows? So that's pretty brief, but then we go into Bombay Dreams, which was cut for Broadway, correct? Which is very interesting. The title song for the show, and then it gets cut when it transfers. And instead we have Salam Bombay as the opener for Broadway.
And I think that works better, even though it's not the title song. I kept thinking, you know what? Bombay Dreams is just not a stronger song, right?
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
mean,
really say
you're
anything.
not gonna, of all the songs from this album that you listen to, is Bombay Dreams the song that you remember and go, yes, that's the one
Right. It
I'm
is
holding
definitely
on
not
to?
because it's very long. There's a lot of instrumental bits which are beautiful, but not driving the story forward from an album standpoint. I'm sure there's some great staging going on with it, but and then
Yeah.
yeah, there's like we're not introduced to the characters like an opening number often will do. It's not really doing much except setting the scene of we're in Bombay and
Mm-hmm.
some general themes of like change is possible and the city streets and all those kind of tropes. But yeah, I think I can imagine Salam Bombay being a stronger opener for the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some live and die in debt, others making millions on the internet. Contradiction, city of extremes, everything is possible in Bombay Dreams.
Like an Eagle. I
Also
know it's
cut
not
for
my
Broadway,
it's not my
right?
favorite.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it is kind of serving as a good I want song,
Mm-hmm.
a more simplistic version because all we're really getting is that he wants to be famous in Bollywood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it is
Yes,
serving
the
that
story. It
purpose.
drives the story forward.
And I believe this was replaced by a new number called Bollywood.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about that number that was in the Broadway version?
Yeah, basically they wanted something different. Like I said before, this is why my grievance why we didn't have our own album, because I kept thinking this is the song. It was just powerful. I remember being in there and rehearsals, and they're like they spent a lot of time on enunciation and spent a lot of time on like we want to make sure this pop. And then the choreography, we spent a lot of time on this song, and I kept thinking, well, I only knew all the other songs. I was like, we got a lot more songs that we have to learn combination. Why are we spending all this time on this? Yes, it's important, but they were really, and I don't know if that was driven by the director or the choreographer. I really don't
Yeah.
because I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I just got tired of working on it because I kept saying I don't think this is the most important
Yeah.
song. But that was just
I'm not
my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily mad that Like an Eagle was cut. I'm sure I would have loved to hear Bollywood. But I do love Raza Jeffrey's voice. It's very nice to listen to, and he sounds great in this song. But it's just kind of mostly that one note as we go through.
Like the eagle was born to soar high above the ocean's roar. I was born to believe in the dream of Bollywood.
And then we move on to Love's Never Easy, which is a slower song. It's a good change of pace from the first couple songs.
Yeah, it's my least favorite, but I understand why it's there.
Yeah, it serves its purpose. It's not one I'm going to listen to on its own, really, but
No.
it's interesting. It does kind of, from a 2025 lens of looking back at this, it feels a little misogynistic that the whole song is about all a woman wants in life is to find a man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it was early 2000s was a different time, but and some of that
It was
might
a very
be
different time. We did it in 2004. This was done in 2002.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
And that might be part of one of the many Bollywood tropes as well that they were just leaning into. So,
exactly. That's what I thought. It's a cultural thing. Yep.
yeah. And I do think, again, you don't get this on the album, but in the show, the character that is singing this song is Sweetie, who is a eunuch, which often people might know them as the Hijra. It's a third gender that is recognized in India, legally recognized. And obviously people have different relationships with gendered terms within that construct. But
Which
I
I
do
think was really, when you think about that time,
yeah.
I mean, it's always been in the culture, but presenting it to American culture in the show, I think was pretty bold, which I think is great.
Yeah, and I think they used it very well to get some good wordplay because, like in this song, we have seen life through men's eyes, so we know what pleases you. There are several of those things throughout the show, and especially this song that they like to play with that and make it. It's an opportunity for a certain kind of wordplay that you normally wouldn't be able to do, and so I did at least appreciate that. And it seems like it was handled pretty respectfully, which is not a given.
I mean, there were questions and they answered, and I mean, it was quite brilliant. Because I mean, there's a moment where you're like, if they're going to do a Broadway album, what are they going to cut? Because obviously that's what happened. As you can see, there's some songs listed and there's some songs that were done differently.
Yeah.
Love's never easy. You will learn this lesson too. I'll be here for you when you do.
And then after that, we have Don't Release Me, which was also cut for Broadway. This is the one that...
I love this song. I love it. I love it.
It is the most musical theater-y sounding song. And like you're actually getting character voice and not just beautiful singing. I'm just so confused because I don't know. There's no context whatsoever for what he's not being released from.
When my next one's in the can, it'll be bigger than Star Wars or Spider-Man.
Yeah, it wasn't clear. And this is the problem they had with like the book. There was discussion about, it needed to be tweaked. So I don't know if this was part of it. I know that there was always discussion that there were too many songs. I mean, it was like, what? We have 19? We're actually more, but only 19 recorded. Like, how long are people going to listen to this album? It was like probably 24 songs altogether.
Wow.
But I think they also, the psychology of listening to cast albums, time is money and all, but it's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I guess part of what's both difficult and fun about this podcast is not everybody shares the same idea of what a cast album should do. And so different people will prioritize different things when they're making them, and then different listeners will prioritize different things when evaluating them. Because, like a lot of times it's nice just to have a full record of the score, all the songs, as many as you can get to fit on the album, so that that's recorded for posterity. Some people want it to be its own independent listening experience. And they want to get it kind of maybe to promote the show as well. So they'll include enough dialogue bits here and there, like a line at least before a song so that you can follow along. And then some people just care about the quality of how well it is executed. And I think there's a whole lot of overlap in those, obviously. But I tend to fall somewhat toward if you can give me more, so I know more of the songs, I love that. But then, if you're going for just what is the listening experience as a separate objective, then more is not always more.
Yeah, I wish, like you made a good point. I wish there was a little bit more dialogue leading into some of the songs than just like another song and then Shakalaka Baby. And then I wish there was a little bit more dialogue. I think it adds value, context, because it gets the listener in the mood for what's about to happen. It brings them along side by side in the story. Then, because if you haven't seen the show and you're listening to a cast album, that's a different kind of experience.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of people who listened to Hamilton before they saw Hamilton.
Yeah.
Right?
And a lot of people in a lot of the country and the world who will not have the opportunity to go to Broadway and will not maybe even be in a city that these shows will tour if they tour. And so all I had growing up were the cast albums because I didn't actually get to New York until I was 25. And so this is how I would know the show. I knew nothing about it except for what was on the album. And then the internet made it easier to get more context and clips and stuff. But, when I was first starting out listening, that's all you got.
And that's all you know. And then you become like, wait a minute. Hey, so...
So Happy Endings it's another more musical theater-y song. It's one of the only songs on the album that actually has characters interacting with each other and like having a conversation, not like just a love duet or something like that, but they are going back and forth. And I believe it is so Akash is the kind of main character that we had
and our actor was great, Manu. He was our Akash, and he was just fantastic. And Anisha, a woman named Anisha, really good, beautiful singer, was the female lead. So yeah, I
believe she was the only one from the West End production to come over. Is that correct?
No, she played Ronnie. She played like the star.
Okay.
She came over. I think Aisha Darker was her name. She's actually a British film actress.
Oh.
And of course, she originated it in London, and they brought her over, and it was great. They tried to get, when she eventually left, when they were trying to get different people, they eventually got Tamara Gray. If you remember, they got Tamara Gray, the American Idol actress. Janet Jackson was also approached. Of course, she declined it. Can you imagine Janet Jackson doing a show? This is when they were starting to get I knew that the show was starting to be in trouble if we're starting to get a lot of celebrities.
Yeah.
Well, that means you have to fire one of the principals in order for a celebrity to come in. So I knew that something's going down if you're starting to really approach celebrities. They're really not, I don't think, right for the actual part.
Yeah.
But just a vehicle for them to
sell tickets.
Reinvent themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a celebrity can reinvent themselves and the theater can hopefully keep the show going and renew interest.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it works. More often it is just a sign of a sinking ship, unfortunately. But
yeah. And I don't always think that's I mean, you have to prove it. I think with Funny Girl, with Leah, I think that she was great. She was a TV star, but also she had the chops. It was a little different.
Yeah. And
she, very, very different.
And she'd made no secret how much she wanted to play that role her whole life.
Yeah. So, exactly. So there was no like ahas or, oh my God. And she delivered. I mean, definitely she didn't deliver.
Yeah. So it sometimes does work very well, but not always. Janet Jackson would have been a very interesting choice.
Motivating, penetrating, that's how movies could be. Heroes flying, villains dying, that's how movies should be. Happy endings, all you know. What's so wrong with happy endings? Chance for people to escape.
And then we have Ooh La La.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little in the way of actual lyrics. A lot of just actual ooh la la la.
I think they could have taken that out and then like replaced it with something else.
Yeah.
I don't think that really added value as they just ooh la la. It's like more like
it's kind of a mood
transition
piece.
dance song, actually. You know, it didn't really.
Yeah. And then I believe this kind of 3 in a row that were cut from the London production were replaced with, from what I could see, Lovely, Lovely Ladies and Bhangra.
Mm-hmm. And that was great. Yeah, I like the Bhangra stuff.
Okay.
That was just
were those
dancing to that was just wonderful.
Was that more of an instrumental or just?
It was more instrumental, yeah, and it was so great. It was just I felt very authentic, almost like Ganesh. It was just you just dance, and it was just this is where one of the heavy dance numbers it was being set up. Yeah.
Okay, which I think is not at all a bad move to lean into more of the big Bollywood spectacle of it all and give the people what they want, which is more of that amazing dancing and use more of that big stage.
And when I see an angel face, my heart and my mind start to race. I feel I'm drunk with love in a magic marketplace. Ooh la la la, ooh la la la, ooh la 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 la.
I do like Shakalaka. Shakalaka Baby became, I guess that's what people remember because it just is easy. I think when you think about this show, that's the thing that you think about. This song, I think, gave people what they wanted.
And this was the song that, like any of those clips from that behind the scenes thing that you mentioned earlier, any of those clips on YouTube, the ending music is always Shakalaka Baby, regardless of what the clip was about. So it seems like they definitely recognize that that's what people latched onto and kind of use that to help promote the show as the central bit. And
it was crazy doing that show. Let me tell you, doing that number was insane. We had 2 wigs. We had a wig that was made for wet because we had 32 jets. 32.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the fountains.
Jets of that fountain. And you're on a rake stage. And it's like a bubble bath. I mean, like literally the water comes up and you get to a point where you can dodge the jets so they don't go up your nose when you're dancing.
That's good.
But you're wet. But let me just say this. Dancing on a rake stage, wet and singing.
Sounds dangerous.
We deserve a Tony Award for that. Let me just say.
Yeah.
It was not easy.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if I've seen much in the way of clips from Broadway. I know I've seen at least some. I was able to pick you out on, I think for Shakalaka Baby, I could see you.
Yeah.
And
it's insane.
Like it is a big production number.
It was a point where you can't do that number. We did it for the Macy's Day Parade, but any other time, like news outlets that wanted us to do it, they had to come to the theater. I mean, how are you going to produce that waterfall?
Right. So I read in a review that this number and only this number was lip synced. Is that because
it had to? Yeah.
Is that like a Bollywood feature or just because
you couldn't have live mics in water?
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Can't have live mics. So we had to, right before that number, we had to all take our mic off and put our wet wigs on, the wigs that we can get wet. And then when we dry off, when we get off, we literally had to strip naked on the side to take off the wet costume. They had towels protecting us. And then we had to put on our stuff, undergarments, and then put the mic belt back on.
All quickly.
And then put the dry wig on. So it was an ordeal. You knew who was holding your towel.
Yeah.
We had to dry you off. And we had to get ready for the next. So you felt like Some women, because their hair was getting wet all the time, underneath the wig, they put conditioner in their hair. So the water, the harshness wouldn't harm their hair. I
Yeah,
personally put a shower cap.
that makes
I
sense.
put a shower cap underneath. I had a shower cap. I had a system. Shower cap, 2 shower caps, and that, because who wants to have damp hair and then have to put a dry wig on top of
Ugh.
damp? That's just not cute.
No, that's not going to be fun to do
So,
every night,
yeah.
eight times a
But
week.
dancing wet and making sure you don't slide, that's not easy.
Yeah. So this was on at the Broadway Theater, which is the second largest house, but it's a giant stage. And so you're moving all over that stage
Yeah,
while trying
I'm
not to
moving all
fall.
over that stage is so crazy. I just got to tell you just a side note. Okay, so one of my jobs before I got on Broadway was I was a Broadway usher. I had done it for like maybe 3 years on and off. And one of the theaters that I worked as an usher was the Broadway Theater. So one day we're rehearsing on the stage, and some of the ushers looked pointing at me like, "Girl, what's there on stage?" So the house manager comes screaming down the hallway, "The stage with the actor." I was like, "Oh no, I'm an actor. I'm actually in the show." He's like, "What? You work here?" I go, "I used to work here with you as an usher, but I'm now on Broadway on the actual stage." He was like, "What?" And then the company manager was like, "What's going on? Why are you like, she used to work at the theater as an usher. You're telling me she's an actor on the stage?" So anyway, long story short, after on our break, I went over there and told him. He goes, "Oh my God, I knew that you were an actor, but I didn't know that you would be on the stage, the very stage that you were ushering." It just was weird.
What are the odds of that, though? That you would end up in the theater that you had been an usher not long before?
But I think what was funny about that story was that the ushers thought I was a crazy person. Like, Tiffany, what usher just jumps on the stage
Yeah.
and starts talking to people and didn't realize that I had quit. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I'm an actor. I forgot to tell you that. Mm-hmm.
And the planets are colliding, fantasies are flying, simply no denying, there you are, my Bombay lover.
I just think that the thing with Bombay Dreams, I love the story, the simplicity of the story. I love the music, of course, was in it. But I think that maybe the characters were not as developed as they needed to be for people to love the characters. Like, you have to have relatability. And so I don't know who was fighting for who. I don't know. People from the audience were like, "Man, I love Akash." I didn't hear specific notes. When you have to, "Oh my God, I love such and
Right.
such from, Most Happy Fella. I love X, Y, and Z from this show." Nan was saying, "Hey, I love Ronnie," or "Hey, I love," it was like they were just talking as a group as a whole. "Oh, I love this show. Oh, I love this song," but not, "Man, this character really nailed it. Oh my God." Right. And I think that is a danger zone. I think you got to have at least 1 or 2 characters where you're rooting for them,
Yeah.
that you care about them. I just don't think the audience cared about the characters as much. Maybe they cared for Akash because they saw his journey was very clear, but maybe all the other characters were not as clear from an audience perspective for them to hold on to.
Yeah.
You got to care.
You have to have an investment for one reason or another in the show.
Yeah. Or otherwise, you don't come back and see the show, right?
Yeah.
You don't.
And you're not going to go out of your way to tell people, "Oh, you should definitely go see this." You're just going to leave and say, "Well, that was nice," and then go about your day. And word of
And
mouth
you have
is
to
huge.
get it to people in, like, say, the Midwest or places that support Broadway. New Yorkers see a show once or twice, but it's people outside of New York support Broadway.
Yeah.
And so if they don't understand the show, or culturally they don't understand, or if there's no bringing them along, then they're not invested
Yeah.
to that story. They'll go, because we came out right at time, our competition was Wicked. Wicked was very clear about their storytelling.
Yep.
They're like, "Oh, let's go see Wicked." Bombay Dreams, maybe, but Wicked, right? The storytelling was very clear in that, and it felt comfortable, right? It was the
Yeah.
Oz story.
And you came out in
It's
quite a packed
tradition.
season. You had a lot of stiff competition. I mean, that's part of the reason that I chose this season for the first to cover on the podcast, because there's so much great stuff in this 0304 season. And so for a show that's trying to break new ground, it's really hard, again, because you still have, Rent and Phantom and all these other long-running shows that were still going, plus all this new stuff. And then, fairly or not, I think more unfairly, and the Broadway Theater is one of the more northern theaters in the district. And so you're not going to get the foot traffic of people walking by as much and seeing, like, theater people walking by. Obviously, lots of people walk by, but people who are just walking around the theater district are not as likely to say, "Oh, what's that? I'm curious. I'm going to go see what that show is."
Yeah. And I think also marketing, I don't want to throw marketing under the bus, but the marketing wasn't up to the level we could have had it, right? Billboards everywhere, movement billboards.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with it too. The more you're in people's subconscious and they're visually seeing it, you tell them what they want. Oh, I didn't know I wanted that.
Exactly.
Right? And we didn't see that.
Yes, perspective of the past is helpful for the future maybe, but not for fixing what was done then.
Well, I'm grateful that there is a album. When you work
Yeah.
really hard on a show, especially a Broadway show, you want some type of documentation. You want witnesses to the work that you put in.
Yeah, and some people don't understand that. They kind of think it's like you're saying, oh, I need you to recognize what I did. And it's more, I need you to recognize this great thing that I thought was worthy of putting my time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into.
Mhm.
The show that I worked hard to be a part of should be recognized for what it is. And it's always nice to have people recognize you as well, but I'm sure you just want to make sure that this thing that you were a part of was getting what it deserved.
Yeah, and that's the business of show business, right? So, we didn't get really nominated during the Tony season, but some of our production team, costume and all that, because our costumes were fantastic.
Yeah.
Our skirts that we wore were like 6 pounds. They were really, because it was all those jewels that they got from India
Yeah.
and abroad that they really poured into the costumes. They spent a lot of money on these costumes. So
Mark Thompson was nominated for the Tony,
Mhm.
and orchestrations and choreographer were the other nominations. So at
Mhm.
least it wasn't
So
entirely
it-
missed.
yeah, so it wasn't missed. It wasn't, right? It'd be different with like none of it
Yeah.
got. But I feel this is what's crazy. To cast album, what you're saying, what is a cast album should do, what it shouldn't do. Sometimes it can't save the show. Because I think after the Tonys, if you're not nominated and the tickets are not already, you don't got pre-sale in there, you're going to get that call from the producers to meet downstairs.
Yep.
And you know what that means, right?
Shakalaka baby, I just wanna love you every day. Shakalaka baby, promise me you'll never go away.
And that kind of feels like it almost segues into the next song, Are You Sure You Want to Be Famous?
Mm-hmm.
Which I always love a song that's in an unconventional time signature. So I love that it's in 7. But the vibe of the music doesn't seem to match the lyrics to me. Like the lyrics are more being real and maybe slightly cynical. And the music is very happy, peppy, upbeat. So I've also seen sometimes it's just called Famous. Was that because they changed some of it at all, or just they
I
decided on a
don't
shorter
know, but I
name?
kept thinking to myself, why is this such a long title? Are you sure you want to be famous? Just seems a little long.
Yeah.
It was okay. I mean, it was my least favorite
Okay.
because I know that the lyrics moved the story forward. It didn't have a catchy tune. And like you were saying, it didn't kind of match the rest of the composition of the album.
Even within the song itself, it doesn't match itself. So
Yeah.
It's
I wasn't.
yeah, it's unfortunate because I do love the time signature, but otherwise not a song I'm going to listen to much.
The public want their stars to be but hero and but fantasy. A poet who can play the clown, a leader who will not back down.
And then we have a very short song, I Could Live Here, which is
Yeah.
basically just kind of a little recitative more than anything else. There's really not a whole
Oh.
lot to it.
No, it's not. It's funny as I go through this all with a new set of eyes, right?
Mhm.
After being away from it and coming to it, you can look at it very clear. Like when I was doing the show, I was like, all these songs, yeah, they make sense. And then as you go back, you're like, we could have taken this out. Like I love How Many Stars, beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Aisha, our woman who played the lead character, she incredible voice. And that is what I wish was on the album. You could have heard her voice, which just was beautiful, just different.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone's voices are different. We all have our opinion and personal opinion about the voices and the liberties that you can take and add to it,
Yeah. It's always nice to have those comparisons of different versions of, different people's take on it to see what you like better and then figure out why do I like this one better. And that's how you kind of find what you're going to explore next. And
Or fire that artist.
especially
You
if they're doing a lot of stuff, you want to make sure that you're staying on top of it and keeping up with them.
I think of like Cynthia Erivo. You either love her sound and follow her or you don't.
And I love her sound, so I will happily listen to anything that she does and watch her in whatever I can.
Yeah, see?
Wouldn't need to bring any packing case. Once I settled in, I'd never leave this place. This would suit me fine, I'd be satisfied. I'd feel like a king once I was inside. I could.
So then after that, we have Only Love, which was, from what I see, more transformed into a song called Is This Love? Is that, so it's kind of maybe similar to what was on the album on Broadway, but different.
Yes, Is This Love? And it was an okay song. I mean, I think people did this song for audition. I think I remember hearing, I think, you know, when they have come back in and do a callback, I think I remember hearing people doing this song.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because it's bringing back that opening theme from Bombay Awakes, but not much is said in the
Tying
song.
everything back in.
So it sounds beautiful, but it's not serving much of a purpose, really.
No.
At least from the
and
album.
that's another thing about this album is that it's like a soundscape in some ways. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel this way. If it's not going to have meaning and purpose and move the story forward, it better sound beautiful. It's got to do one or the other.
Yes, absolutely. So at least I like that soundscape is a very good way to describe a lot of this album, where it's just beautiful and it kind of washes over you.
Yeah, you close your eyes and it just transports you to, oh yeah, waking up in the morning and oh, that's where you're waking up. You're getting your day. You're working in the slums. You're trying to make a living. This is early in the morning. This is 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. You're waking up. And that sound has to match the movement. Kind of.
And it does that very well, at least, even if it's not moving story forward.
Something strange has happened here. I'm no longer free. I can't get you off my mind. What is wrong with me?
And on that note, Chaya Chaya is next, which is all in Hindi. So from what I gather, though, it's more of a spectacle number from the movie that they're making.
Yeah, the Chaya Chaya, that was from Devdas, which is a really famous Indian film. And it's a whole scene in there where they do Chaya Chaya. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a multi-pronged piece. They were singing. They had the singers in the beginning, which was very powerful. And then the dancers, and we had the moving stage. And then we changed out of the women changed out of their initial dresses into these other things, like another dance break outfit. And it's like another shakalaka baby. It gave the audience what they came there for. It was a great production number, very spectacle. I mean, it's like this, I believe it was, our show cost $14 million to put up. So they spent a lot of money on production, the costumes, Bollywood. You can't really do Bollywood and then half-step.
There's no half-ass Bollywood. You have to just lean into it, or else what are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, no one wants to see a mini Bollywood.
And Chaya Chaya was the top of Act 2, so it was a big thing. Anything top of Act 2, you got to come out with a bang.
Yeah.
You're not going to come out with Love is Never Easy. You're not going to come out with
it's interesting.
Or Ooh La La. Then you're going to come out with something that's going to set the tone for Act 2.
Something I've been noticing when recording the podcast this season is there also seems to be kind of two schools of thought with the Act 2 opener. There's we're going to have it be big and bring you back into the action. And then there's this song is small and dumb and kind of meaningless, but we know you're going to be late coming back from the bathroom and the concessions. And so we're not going to put anything too important at the top of Act 2. And it's so funny.
I think that's a mistake because you got to put yourself in the seats of the audience, in the minds of the audience, not the mindset of a producer. But the mindset of the audience. What do they want to see? When I went to go see MJ, the Michael Jackson musical, I came back from Act 2 and it hit it. It was great. They could have easily said, I'm going to give you a silly little song that didn't do well or just more dialogue, but they didn't. So
I definitely prefer the big number.
We just came back from the bathroom. We're tired. We're sitting. We need energy to drive us forward, whether it's a big dramatic scene or it's a big dramatic music or dance. It has to be one of those.
Yeah. And like you said, it's great in this instance to get the energy up after intermission, because after this we go into How Many Stars, which is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and it's a great vehicle for an artist to show their voice too.
Yeah.
was able to show. It's like a great song that if you went in and sang it for an audition, no one's going to be like, that doesn't show your voice. But they're like,
Yeah.
where's that from again?
But if you started Act 2 with How Many Stars, it wouldn't have the right amount of energy because people are still getting back into it. So you have to have that big energy, powerful, pull you back into the story, and then you can sit and fully appreciate this moment of such a gorgeous, again, talk about the orchestration doing a ton of
Absolutely.
work. And it's definitely very kind of sometimes overly poetic language that kind of rides that line of fitting the Bollywood type versus trying too hard to be fancy. And I think the orchestrations and the performances are what keep it on the right side of keeping it in motion and not flowery pandering, which it's hard to walk that line, and I'm glad that they did it so well.
Yeah, I think it was great. I love that song. Of all the slow, it made sense. It
Yeah,
was beautiful, and the audience, I think, came along.
because it's slow, but it's still very powerful with the way that the voices are moving with each other and then the orchestra behind them. It does not feel passive at all. It is slow but powerful. And I do love those numbers. I guess this might be kind of up there with Journey Home for me as far as favorites on the album. And I guess they kind of have a similar vibe of slow but powerful.
How many tides have to turn before you turn my way?
How many stars have to shine before you say you stay?
So we have Salam Bombay. On this album, this is where the track is. And in the show, I believe there's just a reprise in this spot still.
So Bombay, I remember that. That's
Yeah.
the reason why I said they didn't need the song in the beginning, Bombay Dreams, because you got Salam Bombay, which maybe does the same thing.
Yeah, and it does it with a higher energy to open the show. I think it definitely makes sense that they went that direction, especially with what you've told me so far. But it's nice that they at least kept a reprise here to keep it fresh in the minds of the audiences that are listening on Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have Closer Than Ever, another one cut for Broadway, and I believe replaced with Hero.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can speak more to Hero, but
And see, what, again, I go back to, as we go through each song, it's just a reminder of why we needed an album.
yeah,
Because it's reminding me, again, of what songs were pulled and what songs were in exchange.
yeah.
There's a lot. It's not just
It is
two
a lot.
songs.
Yeah, I think they definitely, I assume, retooled the show, one, to try to hopefully match with American audiences more than British audiences, but
But
also,
they should have done it with the album, too. I think the album
Exactly.
would have helped. But, it's all about the dollars at the end of the day. And
yeah,
if we're not bringing in the money, they're not going to spend money on the album. But I do think that the song Hero was great.
okay.
You have Closer Than Ever, you have Salam Bombay. It made sense. That song made sense.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think it made an impact.
And then Closer Than Ever. It's a sweet song, but
I don't know.
a little sugary sweet.
Yeah, I don't know the impact. I don't know if it was really needed.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say.
Because you're going to be going into Hero and the Journey Home, right? So
Right.
it's taking that place.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of our transition out of Salam Bombay into what's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
There'll come a moment when I will hold you closer than ever. Fairy tale romance, princess and hero, closer than ever.
And of course, it's Ganesh. It's a huge
Ganesh, yes.
dance
Which
piece.
you already
which
said
is
how much you loved. and
phenomenal. Like one of my
it's-
favorites.
It's so much fun to listen to. I can only imagine how great it would have been to see because,
Oh, it's great. High energy. It was just like your cardio, your serious cardio. It was like your interval training,
yeah.
right? Like 2 minutes, you're next minute you're like walking. It was just, it was great.
Yeah. And then now comes the journey home as we're getting close to the end of the show. It feels like a very good mix to me of the Bollywood and the 11 o'clock musical theater number that they marry together so well. So it still feels like Bollywood, but it's serving that purpose that we're used to having a big, powerful song in this spot in musical
Yeah,
theater.
you need a big, melodramatic, like lyric very lyrical type of song to just bring everything together because you've had everything. I think that song is special, and I think it's one of the most important songs, The Journey Home.
Yeah.
What is home? That question of home.
Yeah.
Bombay home? Is his new home? Is his history, his background, his where he left? Is that home?
Right.
So all home, like it begs a bigger question for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what musical theater in general is doing, is asking those big questions. And you're either trying to answer those questions or you have more questions when you leave.
Yeah. And I think, we haven't been talking too much about the plot of the show as we've been going along, partially because a lot of the music does not really pertain heavily to the plot, but to kind of, for people who are listening who don't know what you're referencing. So my understanding at least is he comes from the slums, wants to be a big Bollywood star so that he can make money to save his neighborhood that's going to get bulldozed. Yeah. And then he does make it big, but then doesn't want anybody to know where he came from. And so he lies and hides and doesn't help them. And then has to eventually choose which version of himself. Does he try to be both, or does he ignore his family and friends, or does he ignore the rich, famous lifestyle? And so
and that's a universal story.
Yeah. But I just
caught it between two worlds.
Yeah. And I love what you were saying about the different meanings of the song. So I want to make sure that people who don't know the story can appreciate what you said and how poetic it is for this moment. Because it is a beautiful, who do I want to be? Not just who am I, but who do I want to be going forward? Which is something we can all always ask ourselves. It's not all about what we are now.
Who are you in the past? Who are you today? And who are you becoming?
Yep. So it's a very good way to do all of that.
The journey home is never too long when open arms are waiting there. The journey home is never too long. There's room to love and room to spare.
And then we get to end with a big fun number again, the wedding quality.
That's one of my favorite. I love that song. I just love that. I could play that song over and over and over.
Yeah, it's very
just love it. The chanting, all of that. The wedding, it's a celebration. It's kind of like this melancholy celebration. The composition is just beautiful. The way it's very emotional. I feel like it's just celebration and longing and belonging.
Yeah.
It's happy, but it also could be sad and can be rejoicing. It's like this, like you're rejoicing in something, right? Very multi-pronged.
Yeah, it's kind of
layered. If you really listen to the composition, you got chanting. It's not just, we're celebrating a wedding. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of pulling in the themes from the whole show. Like you said, some of the more joyous themes, some of the more sad or melancholy, and kind of marrying them all together into this is life. This is, we can celebrate the wedding, but not forget all the other things that have happened. And I love when theater does that kind of complex storytelling, not just a big happy ending that doesn't feel real or earned. So I do appreciate complexity in storytelling in musical theater, and I love when it's done well.
Oh, I do too. I love it. And then the audience loved it too. I could tell the audience just like, because they hit all those notes. They had real drums. We had a sitar, which was really hard. We had to get pros who knew how to work on a sitar.
Yeah, because it's not something you're going to have a lot on Broadway for most shows.
No.
So it's good that you could bring in an expert.
And we brought in drummers, professional drummers. So that was just huge.
Yeah. And then, so on the album, we just go straight into then Bombay Sleeps, which kind of feels like an epilogue, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
How was the end of the show actually done on stage?
Well, yeah, after the quality, he goes back to sleep. We kind of go into, in the very beginning, we're waking up and we're opening. It's kind of like we're going back into daily life. We're going back home from the days of working out there. So like the show opens us waking up. I'm actually like waking up.
Yeah.
Getting ready to go. And the show ends, we're going home.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's just going back into grabbing their basket or whatever their job was for that day.
Okay.
In some ways, some people say, did he go back home? Did he pick home and not fame? What did he pick? right? And we never tell.
Oh, it's never
Again,
clear. Okay.
Our job is to tell the story.
Yeah.
That was to give you the answers.
And they leave that hanging in the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did he go home to that life, or does he stay where he's at?
Yeah.
Right. I always like to have people guess that and never tell them, but I think it ends really nicely.
Yeah.
Just kind of, it'd be weird to end on a big dance number.
I think it's a bold choice to end quietly like that.
Yeah.
Because in a show like this, everybody's going to expect the big giant number to be the finale. But I love when the storytelling takes precedence and they're like, I mean, we could do that, but that's not true to what we're trying to accomplish here. And so I think it seems like a small thing, but it's really not to have
and I think
to make the decision to stay with what you believe is the right story.
And I think it ended the way it needed to end, because the truth is, you're doing your bows. It was going to be a big, like, another dance break.
Yeah,
it was
that's
another
true.
Dance break as our bows. Our bows was a huge, like, dance break. So you're going to get that.
They will still get it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so you're going to get this arc of the story. Oh, because just think about it. If you're coming out of Wedding Quavale, that can't be the end.
Yeah.
There's got to be little, it's like, okay, what happens after the wedding?
I think a lot of maybe lesser storytellers would end at the wedding, though, because a wedding feels like an end. It feels like a natural end to the movie, to the TV show, to the Broadway show, but it's not the end. And so I like that they went beyond that.
Yeah, I think they wanted to put a button
in
the story.
I think it's well done.
Yeah, and now we go back to our everyday. Now life is, he's married, but life is not easy.
Nope.
Life is not perfect. Life goes on,
Absolutely.
right? It just shows like everything is like jazz hands.
And again, that might have doing the right thing, but not the easy thing, may have not gone over as well with audiences who were not as used to that at the time. I think there's been a lot more of that in musical theater since then. But when you're breaking ground, it may not be appreciated for how, what important work it's doing.
You made a good point. It's when you're the first and you're breaking ground, that is always the risk, is that you're the first. People are not going to remember you, or you may not benefit from all the hard work for breaking ground. It's the next person that comes through, the next Indian show that comes in, like Moonson Wedding or whatever, might benefit from that, right? But the funny thing is, people remember Bombay Dreams, whether it did well or not. People remember. It's not like, hey, was there an Indian show on Broadway? No, people do remember. Hey, it was a show. It made some kind of splash.
Yeah, even if they don't,
even though it didn't
specifics.
Last.
Yeah, I mean, any other thoughts that you have on the album as a whole, on the transfer from London to New York, or just your time with the show?
I just wish we had a Broadway album because, like, again, some of those songs are not on what we performed.
Yeah.
And if you are an audience member listening to a show, I personally think if they were like maybe 6 songs that were very different, they would have done an album because it would have been a different show, right? Because the worst thing that can ever happen is you go to a show and they love the show and they buy the album, not really looking at every song and thinking that some of those songs that Jay loved are not on the album.
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling. But I do think the other side of it, if we had won or been nominated for a Tony, would they had done a Broadway album? There are a lot of questions I have.
Yeah.
The money would have come in. We obviously would have been in the forefront. There would have been more people, butts in the seat. But I think that we did a good job. And I think that the composition and A. Rahman did a phenomenal job with Andrew Lloyd Webber. I really do think it was like a soundscape of, it's great to revisit. I do find myself revisiting certain songs on the album.
More than others.
Not album. I don't listen to the whole album as a whole.
Yeah.
I listen to certain songs. Those are the songs that really were meaningful for me because I can go back and reminisce what it was like being on stage when the song came about.
So I did not know this show. I knew of it, but I didn't know the music until prepping for this podcast season. And I'm so glad, and this is part of my selfish benefit from doing the podcast, is having an excuse to really dive deep into albums that I don't know already and finding more beauty in musical theater that I didn't have before. And so many of these songs are just gorgeous to listen to, even if it's not a conventional musical theater album or a score, it still is very beautiful to listen to. So from what I could tell, there was supposed to be a movie made of the stage show in the late 2000s, early 2010s, something like that.
Yeah,
And
I've heard it, and I don't know if it's gone through. I've
I've
heard mixed things. So
I couldn't even find anything about it like being canceled. I just found articles saying that it was going to happen, and then it doesn't exist currently. So I don't
yeah.
know if it's just stalled or if it is dead or
I
what.
think it was still. I did hear because we had like a reunion. Like I heard that was the key, and then everyone else has been like, "What have you heard?" And we've just kind of dropped it. So I think it's been stalled.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it
But I do
actually
think,
happened.
oh my God, the movie. We all were like, oh my God, the movie.
Because I think people in 2025 would have a much better appreciation for it than it got in
absolutely. We have
2003.
more of a deeper understanding of Indian culture
Yeah.
and appreciation.
Yeah, and people have been exposed to it and Bollywood more. So I'll still hold out hope that it happens eventually.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And this is the crazy thing. If the movie does come out and there's a new audience, like there's always like a new audience, a new generation, then it will spark the play. People will go back and go, I love the movie. Oh, hey, I found an album, right? You'll have new singers or recording artists.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that would be interesting how it has legs. Like something dies and then they find a new audience. It goes viral. I think that can happen. So then they'll have a new life. It's kind of like Merrily Roll Along. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's another perfect example of it was pushing new ground. People weren't ready for it. And it had some flaws, obviously, but found a whole new life more than 40 years later. So it's very exciting. Yeah. It's never too late to revisit something and bring it to a new audience.
Absolutely. I mean, I just love it. It was such a very special time. I feel really honored and privileged to be a part of that production. And I will always hold that dear. And I did the national tour. I did the tour of Bombay Dreams too.
Okay.
So we went on a tour right after that. We went all over the country.
Very nice.
So it was really nice to bring it to people's home.
Yeah. Absolutely. So having so many of the lyrics in Hindi is very beautiful, but it is very difficult to find any transcriptions, let alone translations of what the lyrics are. So when we go through and score the lyrics of this in a minute, we'll be basing things on the English lyrics.
And let me just say one word about that. It was very hard. We had to learn Hindi. And so we spent I think maybe half of our music time learning that. And also A. Rahman, there was moments where he said, I want you to not, he didn't want vibrato, like musical theater, he didn't want obviously that. And so he wanted straight tone sometimes with no vibrato. That's hard.
Yeah, especially depending on the range.
You can really be off pitch if you're not careful. And so it was a different way of singing, and being able to sing it and have that authentic sound was very important to him.
Yeah, I think, having him be involved, there's a lot of details that do not go unnoticed, which is very valuable when you're creating something like this that is exposing people to a different culture. The more you can have it be authentic and representative as best as possible of what that culture, like what Bollywood is. It is very helpful for people to grow their knowledge base and what they're comfortable with and just be more empathetic toward people in general. And that's also part of what theater is so good at, is understanding that other people have different stories and we should not be so closed off to those that are not our own.
Absolutely. That's what art is supposed to do.
Yeah. So should we get into the scoring?
Yeah, let's get into the scoring.
All right. So we're going to start with the music. So we're going to separate out music and lyrics, grade them individually. So out of 15 points for the music, compared to the general musical theater catalog, how well do you think the music is composed and how well is it serving the story?
I think, out of composition, beautiful. I say 13 for composition. I really love the composition of it. Lyrics, I give it a 10.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might even go lower on the lyrics.
I don't think the lyrics.
Don Black is not my favorite lyricist.
No. And I just think it sounds kind of, it was just very I'm not saying he had to be Sondheim. I'm not saying that, where it's a million lyrics.
And I'm not sure to what degree the cleverness of the lyrics is held back by following style from Bollywood music. I think a lot of the repetition is of the style.
I just don't know if he was the right lyricist. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, he's great at what he does, but
Yeah, I think his lyrics can work well with the right music that matches his lyrics, but on top of a different kind of music that's not as good a fit, it feels really clunky. And especially in the Don't Release Me, those are some really bad lyrics, like the syllabic stress that is necessary because of the music, and the rhymes are bad.
Living in this place does suit me. No one here's trying to shoot me. I'll give you movie masterpieces like my previous releases.
I wish they had gotten a different lyricist to tell the story of this music.
And I think that was could have been some of our downfall.
All right, we can go with 10 then for lyrics. So next we're going to get into performance. So first out of 15 points, we're going to evaluate the technical performance. So this will incorporate the singers on the album, the orchestra and orchestrations on the album, just the aesthetic listening quality of what is presented.
Yeah, that's really hard because I score them separately. The voices for me were like maybe a 9 or 10, but the actual composition soundscape, I'd say 13, 14. Because there were a lot more beautiful composition songs than they were corny. Right. Or some moments of really just beautiful.
Yeah. So maybe that averages out to like an 11?
Yeah.
Okay. And then next is voice acting. So this is out of 10 points. How well are you getting the emotion, the sense of character, the sense of story through what we can get on a cast album?
I say like a 5.
Yeah, we really don't get much of it. It's all...
We don't get much of it. It's like, because there's no talking, there's nothing. And the voices I don't get, this is like look, this was done in 2002. We did it in 2004. There's a lot of growth. It's like judging someone who's in a workshop versus fully realized production.
Yeah. And I think they focus a lot on the beautifulness of the voice and not as much on acting through it, except for the one character in Don't Release Me who is giving, like, he is at least giving character. Everybody else is just kind of a trope that sings well.
Yeah, but I also think that wasn't pulled out of them either.
Yeah.
Right? So that's another thing, is that when you're recording, you have your director or your musical director is like, hey, I need more. And if you're not given that, then that's not what you'll have.
But maybe they didn't have that pulled out of them in the show itself either. That might have been something that they tried to do better on Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Then for the story, does this album tell a story? And then we'll break out a subsection of, is it telling the story that actually is in the show? So does this give you a story that you can create in your own head what's going on and link the songs together? And this is out of 15. I think with being more of a soundscape,
I say a 5 because
yeah.
If you're listening to the songs, you have ooh la la, and it goes right into shakalaka. You're not going to listen to that and go, yeah.
I have an idea what's happening.
Go, oh, these are separate songs.
Yeah, so I think 5 is appropriate for that then. And then out of 5 points, for what amount of story you do get, which in this is not a whole lot, does what you get from the story match what the show is actually doing? So basically, this could also be, is it misleading in the story based on the album?
All in love and how many stars. I mean, those things make sense. Close, the journey home. They're actually doing and singing and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. For this, it's always kind of tough. There's not a lot of story that's conveyed, but what is, I think, is largely representative of what is happening.
Yeah.
So maybe like a 3 or a 4 out of 5?
Yeah, I say that.
Okay. And then, so the next two are about the recording quality. So this is basically starting at 10 and then deducting for any issues that you have. So for the audio quality, which is, things like, do the actors sound like they're far away from the mic? Do they sound like there's echoing where there shouldn't be? Any of those kind of issues, do you have anything that would be detrimental from the album recording quality that you would take points away from?
No, I think it was between an 8 and 9. I'm going to say with 9 because I heard all the shambles and all the stuff that we need to hear. I could hear everything, all the background sound that we needed was clear and crisp. That would have aggravated me if it wasn't.
Yeah. And then the kind of other part of that is the mix. Does the balance match what you need for the voices? Do they sound in tune because the balance is correct? Are there issues where you're not getting the right thing emphasized?
I'd say a 9 for the mixing.
Okay. And then, so the last 5 points to get us to 100, the album artwork. Is it representing the show well? Is it enticing you to want to buy the album? Or if it's already on your shelf or in your iTunes library, does that album artwork draw you in to be wanting to engage with that album more? Or is it an ugly album that you don't like and don't want to have anything to do with?
The album I wish we would have had, because our poster was very different. I wish we had more of the actors on the cover. It could have had, I like the colors. I love the Bombay Dreams. That could have been at the top and then maybe they were just trying to entice us. But I think that didn't give us enough. If you don't know anything about Indian culture and you don't know, that doesn't give you enough.
I see what they were going for. It represents the show fine, but does not sell the show or the album. So I agree it's not doing all that it could, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, show the spectacle that's on stage. Like, show what people are going to hear. Like, have that big celebration as the visuals so that as people are listening without any other visuals, they at least have that to get them the right headspace of what they're listening to.
Yeah, and even if they had like even a picture of like the Shakalaka Ensemble or the Chia Chia Ensemble, that would have told an audience outside of New York coming to see a Broadway show, hey, this might be like a spectacle show, like a Cirque du Soleil or a Vegas show, right?
Yeah. So maybe a 3 out of 5 because it's not repelling me at least.
No, it's not. Oh no, it's not.
So it's
I'd
just
say
not giving
3.
everything that it should or that it could.
No, it doesn't repel. It doesn't go, oh my God, that's what you got? No.
Okay, so that gives us a score of 68 out of 100, which does not correspond to a letter grade. This is just fun trying to rank the different things that albums can do for us and who is doing the most of the different kinds of things that an album can showcase. I think that's a decent score for an album that has a lot of value, but has a lot that could have been done better and probably would have been done better if they'd done the Broadway album.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, not a bad score.
No, it's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. This has been so much fun to hear your stories.
This has been fun. Thank you
just
for having
get to
me.
meet
This
you
has
is
been
wonderful.
great.
Yeah. If people want to follow or stay in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to do so?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Tiffany Cooper, and then on Instagram, Tiffany Cooper 7. So they can find me there. And I have my own website, tiffanycooper.com.
All right. And I will link all that in the show description as well.
Yay. Thank you, Al.
Yes, I very much appreciate you being here, and hopefully we'll talk again in the future.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for listening to the Little Things We Hear Together. You can follow me on Instagram at Little Things We Hear Together, and you can also email littlethingsweheartogether@gmail.com. The podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, so please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun. Join me next week when we'll be talking about the 2003 Broadway revival cast album of Wonderful Town. Until then, I hope you soar like an eagle.